Welcome back, you beautiful people. It's scary time.
Halloween is upon us, and it's all spooky! So, we thought we'd share with you some of our scariest and freakiest moments as presenters.
My scariest moment. It has to be bikepacking on my own around the Isle of Wight. So it took me 3 days to get around. Took a while, but there was this one point where I had to camp in the woods. I set up my tent. I didn't know the floor would come alive at night. Literally didn't expect it. I sat by the fire with my brother. We had a good, nice chin wag and started to get tired, and we went to bed. He slept in his bivvy bag on the floor outside with no tent. I was in my toe peak tent, and man, my tent was covered in spiders on the outside. You could hear it all night. I literally was freaking out. The floor literally came alive. I was so scared for my brother outside, actually laughing with fear. He was covered in spiders. His face, I'm sure he ate like 10 spiders that night. I hated it. It freaked me out. It was a full moon as well, and I heard foxes, owls, spiders. Didn't like it.
Horror stories. I think probably my splitting my testicle in half in Vale is probably an old news story now. I'd probably say riding a caveman analog mountain bike with Blake a few weeks ago.
Why are you going fast? Are you fucking serious?
The reason it's scary is that they're so slow. They are so slow at covering ground, and they're simply so behind the times in tech. It was just scary to revisit those caveman mountain bike times.
My spooky story is bikepacking. Me and a former presenter, well, we bikepacked into the middle of Wales. It was a horrible, grim, rainy day, and we were bikepacking to what was known as the most haunted bothy in the UK. We got there, dripping wet, filthy. Once we got in there, that's when the scary thing started. First up, there was a poo on the floor.
There's a floor down there, man. Yes. That's what stinks, man. God. Is that you? Oh.
Actual shit on the floor. Well, I mean, we're gonna have to clean it up, obviously. Yes, people, an actual human poo on the floor of the bothy, which we had to clean up. That was pretty horrible and scary. Once we'd cleaned up someone's little accident, shall we say, night fell, it was pitch black, and of course there's no electricity in there. We had one small light to sort of light our way, if you like. We settled down for the night just on these plain boards for beds, if you like. We had our sleeping bags. And then that's when the mind games started going. So it was the most haunted thing. It was apparently a family had been murdered in there. And when you're going to bed, you were just lying there going, did you hear that? Did you hear it? Every noise was setting us off, and it took me ages to get to sleep. And once I woke up really early, and I was so thankful to wake up and make it through the night that I'd been involved in some kind of horror movie that I don't think I'd ever ridden away from a building quite so quick. And I don't think I'll be riding back anytime soon.
So my scariest moment was when I bought my first trail bike. It was a Rock Lobster B52, like the song, and it was a cheap copy of a Cove Stiffy, which is what I really wanted. But anyway, I'd previously only had XE bikes, so this hardtail with big massive forks just felt invincible to me. And I was out for a ride, my first ride on it, with the lads, and they took me out to the trails to show me their local jumps, and there was this big sort of roll in, like a kind of a wall of death. And I sat at the top and I was watching the boys rolling in, and I was like, it doesn't look that hard, you just need to be bold. So I was like, come on, Anna, let's get it done. And I rolled in and I nailed it. It was brilliant. I did it and I was like, oh, I'm so proud. And then I didn't realize that at the end of the run out, there was this like big tabletop and I did not know how to jump. So I just hit this and just went like that, nose first into the ground, completely knocked myself out. Everything went black, and I just remember like my eyes opening and blinking, and I woke up and I could hear this horrible noise. It was like a howling wolf, and I was like, what inconsiderate is like jeering me on right now? I'm on the ground. And then I realized after a few seconds that it was me. I was so badly winded from hitting the ground that all the air was leaving my body, and I was just going like that, like some kind of ghoul. And I kind of thought that I was never going to take a breath again because it just wasn't stopping. And eventually it did. And then I couldn't breathe normally, and I was like talking like a robot, and I was just laying there, and it turns out I'd broken my collarbone, so that's a big old dent in there, and I'd also got a compression fracture to the spine because I'd sort of accordioned into the ground. And the ambulance crew come up to see me, and they gave me a load of gas, and I was on laughing gas, and I thought I was the funniest person on the planet. Didn't understand why no one else was laughing, and they didn't find it funny that I had to be airlifted out of there because I was so damaged. But yeah, that was a scary moment.
Scariest moments? Well, probably a couple. The first one that comes to mind is my crash in Chile at the Anti-Pacifico, where I landed on my leg really heavily and I got compartment syndrome, which basically meant that my muscle was swelling and I had to have surgery. But the problem was I kind of got ambulanced off to Santiago, which is like 2 hours down the road. Got there at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was on the phone for like about 3 hours to the insurance company before they would operate on me. And basically I needed my leg opening up basically to kind of let the muscle, the blood come out of it. Otherwise, the story was, the doctor's telling me that your muscle eventually just explodes, it expands, and it just pops. And that's really bad news. So that was kind of worrying for a while. Eventually it got sorted, and I went in for emergency surgery at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And then it was all right. I kind of had a bit of a prolonged stay in hospital, but by that point it was done and dusted. I wasn't going to lose my leg. It was okay. And probably one of the other kind of pre-GMBN scariest moments is I raced that legendary Chambéry race. I can't remember what year it was, but the one where Mathieu Lecoinen won. It rained, it was nuts. Sam Hill had that legendary run where I finished third, I think Steve Peat was second. Just the other week actually, Jack, one of our creators who's normally behind the camera, went and rode the track with Rich to experience just how scary it was. But I think it's way more bike parking now. Then it was completely fresh, completely kind of, dirt, there was no berms. But I remember that in the rain being almost unrideable. But that is a legendary place. If you ever get a chance to go to Chambéry, if you ever go to Portes du Soleil, then nip over, give that track a ride, you'll see just how steep it is. And I'm sure it's still very scary nowadays.
So there we have it, a bit freaky, a bit dodgy.
Some good stories. We've got some good stories about
Got some
this,
good
right?
ones there, good ones.
Let us know some of your freakiest or scariest bike moments in the comments down below. Right, see you later, everybody.
See ya. You got any blood to drink?
Wow, no, I left it at home.
Oh.